thought your job was to think, Spring Wiener.
Before it became the classic that we all love, Toy Story was so mean.
I'd just like to wish...
So unlovable.
Throw him out the window!
And so humiliating that Disney shut the movie down.
I was pretty much embarrassed with what was on the screen.
The team had just 2 weeks to turn this
So shut your mouth and get them off the bed.
into this.
The word I'm searching for, I can't say because there's preschool toys present.
But this edgier Toy Story wasn't even Pixar's idea.
This is too juvenile. It's toys, it's too juvenile. You gotta make it more edgy.
Disney, the ones who had pulled the plug, had intentionally pushed it in this direction in the first place. By 1990, Disney's appetite for growth had exploded.
I don't think Disney is like the Constitution. I don't think we have to preserve it and put it in glass. I think it's a growing, and if it's not growing, it's going to die.
They weren't just looking for more ways to push their brand out into the world, but also for talent and ideas they could add to their ever-growing collection.
Yesterday, the Muppets danced on stage over news that Walt Disney bought Henson Associates, giving Disney exclusive rights to Henson's colorful characters.
One of those ideas came from a little animated short that had just made history as the first computer animated film to win an Oscar.
The computers didn't create the films, people did, and we'd like to thank those people at Pixar.
What Disney really wanted was John Lasseter and the idea for a fully fleshed out Toy Story. But once they realized they couldn't lure him away, they inked a production deal with Pixar, a company so strained by the cost of its own technology that it was in no position to play hardball.
Because it was a first-time production of this company, we owned probably 85 or 90% of the film.
For the Toy Story team, this wasn't just a financial lifeline. It gave Disney leverage over something they desperately needed and couldn't get anywhere else.
Working with Disney gave us access to that wisdom because you can't buy it for love or money. The wisdom and experience of having made, tens of feature animated films.
For Disney, the deal meant control. Not just of the characters and the right to make sequels without Pixar, but of the movie itself. It gave executives room to flood Toy Story with notes, pushing this risky little experiment until it looked the way they wanted it to.
We've never made a buddy movie. We've never made a movie set with this level of contemporary human-type characters.
And it wasn't long before Toy Story and one iconic drawstring cowboy started to change under that squeeze.
In animation, the actual production of the footage is so time-consuming, therefore expensive. It's really the time is why it's expensive. We can't really afford to do a scene 10 different ways. We have to do it just every frame has to count.
Early into development, Disney's involvement became relentless.
The notes kept coming back. This is too juvenile. It's toys, it's too juvenile. You gotta make it more edgy. Make it more edgy, make it more edgy.
More
Come on,
zingers.
come on,
Zingers.
more
Put
edgy,
downs.
more edgy.
Jeffrey Katzenberg, who at the time was chairman of the Disney Studios and had great interest in animation, would always be pushing for what he called edge.
And the Mouse House had every reason to trust that instinct. A sharper, edgier attitude had already helped turn movies like Aladdin and the soon-to-be-released The Lion King into 2 of the biggest movies of the decade.
We would turn around those notes and then we'd fly down to Disney, pin up our boards, and they'd give us more notes. And we'd even make changes that night, and then like at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m. the next morning, very early mornings, we would pitch it to Jeffrey Katzenberg. And then he would rip them all apart.
But how do you force that same attitude onto a buddy comedy about toys? Before long, even Toy Story's lovable cast was starting to feel unrecognizable.
Hey, spuds for brains. What do you think you're doing? Off the bed. Hey, off the bed!
You gonna make us, Woody?
But no character was damaged more than Woody, who had gone from the emotional center of the whole film to just plain mean.
All right. Save your batteries, people.
In this version of Toy Story, Buzz doesn't accidentally get knocked out of that window. It's Woody that deliberately pushes him.
I'd just like to wish you luck. I know you'd do the same for me. Oh, yeah, well, yeah, there you go. Yeah. Whoa! Hey, I don't see him. I think he fell onto the street.
Yeah, he's as good as roadkill. He ain't going to pizza now.
Woody, you deliberately threw Buzz out the window.
Hey, it's a toy world.
This wasn't just a darker Toy Story. It was a version of the movie where the characters were no longer worth caring about.
It was a story filled with the most unhappy, mean people.
But the real fallout was still coming. When Disney finally had to sit down and watch what all those notes and the millions they'd already invested had actually created.
Everything kind of fell apart at that point.
On a Friday in November of '93, the team traveled down to the Disney lot to show the executives exactly what this edgier Toy Story had become.
I had made it. I directed everybody to do this, but it was like, I sat there and I was pretty much embarrassed with what was on the screen.
Jeffrey said, well, why is this so terrible? To me in the hallway. I said, well, because it's not their movie anymore.
Disney had pushed Toy Story so far off course that it barely resembled the movie the team had set out to make. And after all the time and money already poured into it, it wasn't even clear if there was a movie left to save.
Are you threatening me?
Yeah.
The executives were at a crossroads. They could cut ties with Pixar and shrug it off as another unsuccessful high-risk experiment. Or they could finally give the team the time they needed to make their movie without Disney steering every decision.
Disney forced us to shut production down. And they wanted us to lay people off, and we refused.
The team was almost completely hand-tied because, again, their contract had Disney in control of the project. But what they still had was the original heart of the movie, the emotional complexity of friendship. And with this vision, Pixar was able to convince Disney to give them one more shot.
I said, just, give us 2 weeks and we'll turn things around.
This was the team's last chance to prove that Toy Story could still be saved. But with only 2 weeks to turn it around, they first had to rebuild the one character the entire movie depended on.
I turned to our guys and I said, let's just make the movie we want to make.
But how do you undo all that executive oversight and get back to the original vision? All in 2 weeks. And failure? That meant the studio shutting down, layoffs, and Disney taking full control. For John Lasseter, the solution was brutally simple.
The thing that was really important for me after that Black Friday screening was to make Woody likable.
And this wasn't just about washing away the edgy persona that had been smeared all over Woody to make him nicer. For Toy Story to work, audiences had to relate to this over-the-hill cowboy so that his insecurity, jealousy, and fear of being replaced felt rooted in something deeper than anger and cruelty.
Our goal was to make Woody so likable. Then when he started kind of becoming a jerk, it was like, oh, Woody, don't make those choices, instead of, what a jerk. I don't care about this guy.
It was this moment that the essence of Toy Story got rebuilt into not just a likable movie, but a movie worth loving.
All right, that's enough. Look, we're all very impressed with Andy's new toy.
Toy?
T-O-Y. Toy.
Excuse me, I think the word you're searching for is Space Ranger.
And once they were able to get this version in front of executives, Disney could finally see what Pixar was trying to save.
That's what we turned around. It was kind of the first act. And in 2 weeks, I'll never forget the screening. And of course, the executives at Disney were really expecting, what could they have done? And they were like stunned. And Tom Schumacher, to this day sort of says that he's never seen that in history.
The twist in all of this is that while Toy Story went on to take over the world, Disney would eventually add Pixar to its own collection of toys.
The Walt Disney Company is buying longtime partner Pixar Animation.
In announcing the deal, Disney's CEO Robert Iger made clear it was a move to make sure that great animation remains Disney's hallmark.
And in doing so, they'd elevate John Lasseter into a role overseeing Disney animation, one that meant giving the same notes he'd once been buried under.
We're dedicated to the vision of these filmmakers, but the most important thing is we got to be making a great movie for our audience. And frankly, that's good business.
But to see what happens when Pixar lives long enough to become the villain, check out my video on the dark fantasy movie from the director of The Nightmare Before Christmas that they brutally axed.